Hi, I'm Charmaine. Welcome to the Love of Self podcast, where we delve into the emotional aspects of finding love for self. Today's topic is loops of toxicity. In my eyes, loops of toxicity is usually some type of dynamic or relationship within our thinking and interactions with ourselves and other people. This can be in lots of different ways. Romantic relationships, family relationships, work relationships, jobs within itself, our own behaviors with ourselves and the people that are around us, where we have these energies that go back and forth all the time, from toxicity on one end to the other end being a state of telling yourself why you need to still stay within this dynamic, giving yourself or other people or places or things the excuses they need to continue harming you, and vice versa. And from my experience, there was a constant toxic person, place, or thing or area that just kept coming around. It kept looping into this horrible place, horrible way of being, horrible way of saying things, horrible way of doing things. And then it's like we keep doing this horrible thing, and then after the horrible thing is done, I guess someone feels better, and then we're like, okay, sorry, I feel better now. Now we're happy again. And then you go right back into the toxicity. Over and over, back and forth, day after day, year after year, week after week, month after month, decade after decade. The same energy that we go back and forth in and pretty much block ourselves from empowerment, enlightenment, growth, healing. It's not to say that we can't experience rough times or arguments, disagreements, but I'm talking about in the way that we do it, in the behavior that we choose to take on in order to let out our frustrations. That's number one. And the other thing with it is you keep going through the same frustrations over and over again, and then it's never really dealt with in order to pass through. It's just kind of left there to keep tripping over. If I use a metaphor and say that there's a big rock in the house, not too huge, but rather large enough to do something about. And nobody wants to pick it up. Nobody wants to deal with it. Nobody wants to really clean in the depth that needs to be cleaned in order to come to a better understanding and awakening and knowledge within ourselves. Instead, we put the rock under the rug. And then every time we turn around, everybody's tripping over the same rock. But instead of clearing it out, it's left there, and everybody pretends like it's not there until someone trips. Someone keeps tripping and hurting themselves and falling and busting their head, but they keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. We keep walking on the same floor with the same problem and not waking up from it. Nobody wants to deal with the real issue that will allow for letting go. So it's almost like the rock is something to hold on to because we want to be mad. We want to keep being mad about something. And whatever this analogy stems from, it's like the unawareness that not cleaning up the rock means that we want to hold on to it because it gives us something. It gives us something to be mad about, be hurt about, because the energy feels so comfortable. There can be a sense that we don't want to clean it up because it helps us to feel attached to one another or attached to someone or something that we love. So because that someone or something is hard to let go, we keep tripping over the rock. Because then what do we have? What connects us if the rock isn't there anymore? What do we have to talk about? What do we have to be about? What do we have to argue about if we clear out the rock? If we cleanse ourselves of our own toxic loops within our own minds, then what? Where do we go? What do we do? That's all we know is this toxic loop. Is this back and forth of humiliation and heartbreak. That's the only way that I can feel connected to you. That's the only way you can feel connected to me, is if I steer my mind toward this object, subject, place, person. This is what helps me feel safe and secure in some way, regardless of the harm that it's doing, regardless of the emotions that it stirs up within whatever dynamic this is. Even if it brings me down, even if it tears my soul, it's all I have to grasp onto to feel some type of worth. But it's just an illusion of worth. It's an illusion because the energy settles within a spool of harm. And if you've always been harmed, that feels like a very comfortable place to be. If you don't know any difference because of whatever you have been through, it is an extremely hard thing to recognize. It's a normal space to be in. It's a comfortable place to exist within. So you keep perpetuating the same ideas and problems, heartache, control, foulness, even may I say evilness at times. I would imagine that that's an extremely hard thing to recognize. Or actually, I take that back. I assume that the opposing energy that has dealt with the toxicity and has uplifted from it and is maneuvering in a different wavelength. I wonder what seeing the opposing energy within my own toxic loop brings forth within my own mindset. With whatever negative attachment that I have, what will it take me to recognize the opposite of that? What would I need to see? What would I need to feel? What would I need to hear? What would I need to know? And then how do I grow from it? What do I do with the information once I have it? It's very hard to say. But I know that once we come to some recognition of our own toxic loops, of our own blocks that keeps us stagnated within toxicity, it's time to do something. It's time to change something. It's time to move something. It's time to grow something. It's time to be something else. It's just a matter of seeing it. I'd like to thank you for taking these few moments to listen to what I have to say. I greatly, greatly appreciate you. So I'd like to ask you, have you ever experienced loops of toxicity within any dynamic of your life? Something that was hard to get a grip out of, that keeps you stagnant mentally in some way, shape, or form. Are you still in that loop? What do you think it would take to come out of it? What do you think you'd have to see? What do you think you'd have to do? What would you think you'd have to change within your mind to get started? I'd love to hear from you. Please comment or email theloveofselfpodcast@gmail.com. Please remember, I'm not a therapist. Also, my new book is out, Love Yourself, a book of poetry and spiritual writings for self-love, available now on bookbaby.com. I wish you all peace, love, and joy, always. Until next time.